Day 3 is now in the books. Day 3 has been completed. What happened? What did I end up doing? And what's the plan for tomorrow? So to start things off, I had a very successful first full day in the office, and I wanted to implement that this day because let's be honest, if you're not doing this consistently, it means absolutely nothing. There is, which I'll talk about later in the video, there's a special thing that happens with compounding consistency. We'll talk about it. So what did I do today? Well, start things off in the morning. The first thing I did was I ended up actually not only developing my scripts for open houses, specifically on greetings and buyer objections. I also did do some script practice. So I started saying stuff out loud, trying to get in the midst of everything. I only did it for about 15 minutes, so it wasn't like a long or even like a really sufficient time. It was just to get my feet wet because I spent most of the time during my time block actually developing the scripts. But it was really great first day of practice. I'm going to go ahead and fully implement that tomorrow for an hour. So for an hour long, I will be doing that in the office. So that was the first part of my day, was developing my script. So right off the bat, the most important part of my day is done. Okay, so what did I do in the second half before lunch? So for the last hour, so the first 3 hours was scripts. The last hour until 12, because I usually go in the office at 8 until 12, I ended up doing a market study. So I started studying the market of Westfield through the MLS. So I started looking at listing prices, average listing prices in Westfield for that week of August through August 2nd. I also looked at active inventory, number of days on market, average number of days on market, list to sold price ratio, all that stuff. Also looked at the list to sales price ratio to see like how much homes are selling for. It turns out homes are selling for a higher price than what they're being listed for on average. So sellers are still at a higher ground right now, but we're starting to see a shift towards buyers because of increase in inventory and among other things. So that would be the second part of my morning. Again, hour lunch, same thing every day for lunch. I get ham and cheese sandwiches, apples, get some peanut butter crackers as like a snack, orange, water. I only drink water and orange juice. So what about the second half of my day? What did I do in the second half of the day that led on and gained the momentum from the morning? So I did a due diligence on my open houses that I was hosting. So I actually got a notification from the listing agent where I actually had an open house that was canceled for Sunday. So I had one open house on Saturday, a different home on Sunday. The Sunday one got canceled. The listing agent and seller were able to actually get the home sold. So that's great news. So I was able to pivot and find another open house on Sunday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Not an ideal time for me. Okay, I don't like to do Sunday open houses from 4 to 6. I don't think many people do either, but it's good experience and I'd rather do it than not do it at all. You miss all the shots you don't make or don't take. You miss all the shots you don't take. So that would be my plan for that. So going back to the due diligence, I created a comparative market analysis on the open house for Saturday. So I made a customized CMA. I used references regarding the assessed value of the home and comparing it to other listings in the neighborhood. So I was able to get all that stuff developed and I made an estimated price range, no specific price, just an estimation of my opinion. And as it is, it's my opinion. So I emailed that to the listing agent who is also selling the home. And then I also looked on the MLS to look at some additional information of the home. So now I understand the value of the home that I'm hosting open. So when people talk about the price, I have rebuttals for that and I can guide them and show them the value of the home compared to its competitors that are also being listed in the neighborhood. So that is what I did in the second half of the day for the most part. At the very back stretch of my day, I worked on systems. Okay, so this is the first day finally. I get to implement my systems. As far as systems goes, it's for my business model, what I want my business to look like, what numbers I need to hit. So I took reference from the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent by Gary Keller. Of course, I work for Keller Williams, so it's almost like I have to read the book. It's the real estate agent Bible at this point. And it goes over certain segments of your model that you should use for your business. One of them being the economic model, which isn't necessarily tied to money, but it's all about the numbers you need to hit for your business to grow. Okay, so this is going to be about commissions. This is going to be about how many numbers you need to hit to get to this closing, to that closing, conversion rates, all that. So what I ended up doing was I started estimating on average how many open houses I need to host to get a deal and how many deals I need to get to net my goal, which is $100,000 my first year net income. It's a lot for a 22-year-old, although it's better to, aim for it and not get there and maybe get to like 70,000 than to aim for 50,000 and get to 50,000. So that's my process on that. So the economic model, I started calculating things of like, what's the average number of people visiting an open house? What is the average number of people converting from a visitor to a lead, and then from a lead to a client, and then from a client to a closed deal? It's a lot. And so I started measuring and calculating things on a mistake. I'll explain why. So when I started calculating, trying to get the commissions and how much I need to do to actually net $100,000, I was doing it only on open houses. I wasn't taking into account of sphere of influence, to social media, for example, or to outside variables where I might end up meeting someone in my gym, for example, who might end up wanting to buy or sell in the future. So I only calculated what I need to do just on open houses. Secondly, I calculated what I need to do based on the average numbers that people get as far as conversions goes, as far as the number of people in open houses, and then adding that to $100,000 after the commission. I also took into consideration of the commission and then like the split of the brokerage, taxes, that stuff. So the mistake I made was that I used average numbers that an average agent would do to net $100,000. Like, what numbers do I need to hit using the numbers of an average agent to make $100,000? I'm a fool for that because average agents don't make $100,000. So I ended up getting I needed to host 500 open houses to net $100,000. Like, that's insane. Like, that's like years and years and years of work. Like, and that's because I was like, this is insane. Then how can you do open houses so well? And, it's just assuming you do open houses every weekend. How could you do that when, there's only 56 weeks or 53 weeks in a year? So, but the reason why is because I used average numbers, and I should just honestly get to this point where I'm not an average agent. I don't say that, okay? I don't say I'm above average for a new agent. People tell it to me, okay? And I believe them because their experience at what they do. My lender mentioned that. Other agents in the office mentioned that. Real estate coaches have mentioned that to me. So that's something that's been instilled in my brain, is that I am ahead of most agents, which honestly isn't saying a lot because most agents don't time block, they don't strategize, they don't have a system that they go through every day, they're not process oriented, they're not focused on consistency and practice, and you can see it because most of them quit within a year. So is it safe to assume that I am above average as far as new agents goes? Not average agent in general. I never even made a sale, so I can't say that. But I can say that I am on the right track and I am above the average agent in that sense. So I shouldn't be using those numbers. I should be using my own numbers and what I've been calculating, which is why it's important to keep track of those numbers. So today, I worked on my economic model for my business. So that's 3 major things I did today. I practiced my scripts, 3 hours, plenty of time, great productivity there. Secondly, I did a CMA, and I am on organizing myself. Scripts, market study very briefly for an hour, and then I did my due diligence on the open house. And then the last part was developing systems. I started on the economic model. Someone's texting my phone. But you can see what I'm trying to say here. After that, I found a gym membership at the YMCA. Great gym. Got to know the staff there. Can't wait to actually start to talk to people at that gym. Not just for business, but Westfield's a great city, so it'd be great to meet people there. And then I just cooked 2 breakfast burritos. And now we're here. So I would say it's a successful day. Let's keep doing it tomorrow. I have to do this. It's so easy for me to say this the first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, even to the 30th day. But when you get to day 60, day 70, day 80, it's not going to be new. It's not going to be fresh. But I have to do it. There's no choice for me, but I have to do it. So that's why I have to wake up every day, same time, same routine, over and over and over again. And this is what I wanted to talk about in this video. The power of compounding consistency. There's a book that I read called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. It talks about that the little efforts you take, although they may not be big, they may not be crazy, the more you do it in those extended period of time, you're going to be able to see results. And it's going to compound. It's not going to be linear. Progress is never linear. If you ever gotten into business or self-improvement, you know that everything's exponential. Okay? So when you start off in business, it's like this. It's like when you go to the gym. Like when you start off, you're going to get newbie gains where it's easier for you to build muscle in the first 6 months. And then after those 6 months, if you keep going consistently, the progress is just going to get slower and slower. Same thing with business. This is why it's so important, and the most important thing. Even expert agents on YouTube talk about it. Brandon Mulren and Mark Brenner, these guys, they always talk about compounding consistency. I don't know who's texting me. Hold on 1 second. Okay, we're back. So I decided to check my phone. Vince texted me. The power of compounding consistency. Like I said before, it's the most important thing in real estate because the truth of becoming successful. Okay, I'm 22 years old. There's so much I got to learn. But what I do know for a fact is that in business, the steps to become successful are very simple. They're very simple and very straightforward. But the challenge is the emotional, mental bandwidth you're willing to go through to reach your goal and how long you're willing to do it for. That is the challenge, not what to do. It's how much of it are you going to do? How much are you willing to do to get to your goal? How much are you willing to give up to get to the goal that you want to attain? I'm one guy, like I said, I keep saying this in this video over and over and over again on this YouTube channel. I'm one guy, okay? I don't have kids. I'm not married. I'm 22 years old. I'm in an apartment. I got no job. I'm unemployed. All I have right now is savings money, so this is why I'm moving as fast as I possibly can. So when we talk about compounding consistency here, that's why it's important for me to keep making these videos every single day so that you guys can keep me accountable and I can tell you guys what I'm doing every single day. Now, you might be wondering, well, what does this have to do with me? Like, why do I have to hold you accountable? Why do I have to watch these videos? If you're asking that question, I don't know why you're watching still. But if you were asking that to yourself, it's because my end goal is I want to teach people what I've learned. I want to grow as a person. I want to be able to just become a better version of myself every day and live up to my potential. And I want to teach people that. I want to provide value to the world. That is my goal in life. I want to write a book about, my first book will be about how I became successful. And I want to teach people because there's even things I read in books that I haven't seen in books that I've seen in my life. So that is my biggest goal. And that's why I'm working so hard and diligently at what I do. That would be my routine that I did today. And that is the power of compounding consistency. You might not see progress, okay? In The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, they give this example in the book. Abraham Lincoln failed many, many, many times when he was running for office. Not just for the presidency, not just for the Senate, but he was running for local city rules in Illinois, I believe. So in that sense, it was all the way up until 1858 when he ran for Senate and lost. And he had like 13 something losses. He was an anxious person. And if you would have stopped there right at 1858, we wouldn't even know who Abraham Lincoln is. But now that he did it, he became the president in 1960. And now he's a world-class, person and, famous for the rest of time. Just because he didn't give up. That's why this stuff is so important. Here's the thing, you don't fail unless you give up. That is when you truly fail. It's not the good kind of failure where you mess up and you learn from it. It's the bad kind of failure where you give up. With that being said, though, if you see an opportunity or if you're in real estate and you're like, I don't like this isn't really what I'm going to do, fair enough, leave. I'm telling you what, right now, there's nothing else I'd want to do more in my life than work in this. Because I love the idea of being better and growing and doing what I actually want in my life. So that's why I'm doing this stuff. And I have to stick to it. Like I said, these videos don't matter. My practices don't matter. None of this matters unless I stick to it for an extended period of time. I cannot be controlled by failure. I cannot be controlled by success. Humble and hungry, give it all I can every single day, having that fire in my belly to keep going. That is the goal. I'll go ahead and follow up tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, it's going to be a little bit of a different day. I got business meetings I need to attend. I'm talking with my lender about buyer objections, and I'm going to go meet with one of the most successful agents in Westfield after the meeting. So we're going to go ahead and see how that goes. Hopefully it doesn't get mad at me and it's not a bad meeting. That would really suck. I don't think so. I already know him already. I met him over a year ago before I even got licensed, before I even really got into my pre-licensing course. But we'll see how it goes. And I'll tell you guys all about it tomorrow. So thank you guys for watching. As always, I'll see you guys on the next video.